Hey, what's up? It's Phoenix and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm very excited because today I'm going to talk about the book Forever by Thomas More. So without further ado, let's dive right in. I recently read a book called Forever by Thomas More, who is a writer that I actually hadn't encountered before and that I was very stoked to be able to read. I very much like this book, although I will confess that it deals with very intense, visceral, and taboo subject matter. So just so you're aware. So there are some spoilers, and I will be delving into some of the more gritty nature of this book. Just so you are aware. Now, I like this book. The book features a lot of encounters between the main character, the protagonist, who hooks up with a lot of other individuals. He is gay and has sex with other males. And so that is one of the most intensely visceral aspects of this book, is that the book is graphic and does deal with some of those scenes and some of those moments. But here's the thing about the book. It's very honest. It's very true. It's very brutal and visceral and raw. It's honest. And I think that one of the things that this author is delving into by tapping into these emotions is the way in which we have in society become atomized through a variety of different processes in the world, such as capitalism, as is described in this book. And what this means is that we are less connected to each other. And so you could read the book and this character as being someone and being about someone who is trying to make connections with other people in a world that is distorted and atomized, where people have split apart and are not connected anymore. I found that theme to be very visceral and raw, which is why I enjoyed the book, because it does have very sensual elements, but it's also about a deeper theme of trying to connect with other people and how difficult that can be because of institutional forces such as capitalism and the disconnection that we have all faced in our modern world and the alienation that we face. The book does deal with some graphic elements aside from that in terms of thinking about a murder of a kid, and that is another very visceral and taboo subject. But I think that that part of the book is handled as well, very well, because it deals with themes that are very much relatable, that people are brutally murdered by, and granted this might be a little bit of a rhetorical flourish of mine, but we are murdered by society. We're murdered by a lack of compassion. We're murdered by the cruel forces in the world and the endless predatory nature of forces like capitalism. And so it's very difficult to comprehend as well as to digest. And I'll admit that I've struggled with trying to think about what this means for our society and our lives, and this is my understanding of it. What I would say, and what I would say this book captures very well, is that we need to try to connect nonetheless. The book is very taboo as well because it deals with suicidal ideation. But here's the thing. I think that it is very important for us to still nonetheless, like this protagonist, try to connect with other people anyway. While we can't know what our end game is going to be, and while we don't know how long we're going to be here, there is a way in which one of the most important themes as captured in this book is the theme that we have to put our all into it. We have to go all in. There's no way that we can live with regrets. And I think that this is very powerful because the character puts himself through a lot of harrowing situations where it seems as though he is very much disconnected from the world, but he's doing this because he is trying to establish his own meaning. And he is trying to understand his own purpose in life and what he's trying to do with making connections with other people. And I think that that's a very powerful theme. The book is not easy to digest for the reasons that I've mentioned, and the suicidal ideation is very difficult as well. For me personally, because I've struggled with suicidal thoughts in the past. And I will acknowledge that it's not easy living with those thoughts. And there are times where I felt very atomized and felt that part of the reason why I was this way and was having these suicidal thoughts was because I wasn't connecting with other people. And so that is definitely a very important thing to keep in mind, that we are detached and isolated from each other in modern day society. And so some of that does lead to mental health issues. And so I definitely don't want to stigmatize this character, and I don't want to stigmatize the narrative. And so I'm not going to say that necessarily mental illness was a part of it, but it is very fair to say that this character struggles with making connections with people, and he struggles with the things that his mind puts him through, and through the trauma of his past, which has made it to where he is also not as connected with people. Now, I would definitely give this book a very high rating of 5 stars out of 5 stars, and that is because I find the book to be very enjoyable, even if it does have the visceral themes, because I think the writing is very concise, and often it reads like poetry because it is so concise, and because you linger on the images and the words. And I very much like that approach. I think that the book does a lot of things right with talking about these very taboo subject matters and shining a light on things that humans and society don't want to talk about, but that are very much with us and a part of our lives. And I think that that's one reason why it should have high ratings, in my opinion. I also think that the writing is very well done. As I said, it's very concise, and definitely you feel the emotion and the emotional punch, the gut punch you could call it, of the writing and of the words that are used in this book. And it is definitely a very intense theme and way of writing. It captures so much of this intensity of emotion and what it feels like to feel alone and to want to connect with other people but struggling so much to do that. And I very much identify with this character because I understand that the human drive and the human need for connection and understanding our desires and understanding ourselves and other people is very much a part of our reality, and there's no denying that. I think the book might be a little bit more visceral for me because it does deal with themes regarding homosexuality, and it does deal with themes regarding sexuality itself and how that may or may not get expressed. And so I think in that way the book was also very successful for me, in my mind, because it helps shine a light on some of these difficult themes and the ways in which it's very easy for these themes to get glossed over in society. And obviously, one of the biggest takeaways from such a theme is that we do deal with these things on a regular basis whenever we are disconnected with people and trying to understand our sexuality and our nature and who we really are. And so in that way, it definitely makes sense to think through these themes in that lens. And so it definitely isn't easy to talk about because it is a difficult subject matter and often people don't want to talk about it. But I thought that I would just shine a light on that because I do think that it is very important. I think that these themes are very important with dealing with life and with dealing with being gay and dealing with your life when it may not go the way that you were hoping that it will, and with struggling with suicidal thoughts. So yeah, I'm Phoenix, and I very much enjoyed this book, and I'm glad that I was able to read it. Mental health is not an easy topic to talk about either, and I think that the book did very well describing such themes. And I also feel as though the book is very, even if it does deal with heavier matters, I also think that it is completely relatable, and I very much like that theme. So yeah, thank you for watching, and there will be much more content to come. I definitely encourage you to check this book out, and yeah, I will see you next time.